let's put our guest in na po.
Okay.
Good morning to our media partners. Welcome to our Kapihan for today. And we have with us Dr. Mary Ann Buni of the Vaccine Expert Panel, who will be providing us with discussions on the pediatric vaccination for 5 to 11 years old. Our speaker for today is a member of the National Immunization Technical Advisory Group for COVID-19 vaccine and the president for Pediatric Infectious Disease Society of the Philippines. We have Dr. Mary Ann Buni. Doc Mary Ann? Yes
Hi,
po.
good morning.
Good
Let me
morning
share
po.
my screen muna.
Yes po.
It reads here, host disabled participant screen sharing.
Wait lang po, Doc.
Doc, kung post yung kanyang co-host na siya now.
Doc, you may share your screen na po.
Can you see my slides?
Yes, Doc. We can see your slides po.
I'll just make it. Okay, good morning, everyone. I am tasked this morning to talk about COVID-19 vaccination for children, particularly the 5 to 11 years old. Right now, COVID-19 in children and adolescents remain to account for less than 10% of cases in the Philippines. It still is a respiratory disease and manifests as a flu-like illness with fever and cough as the most common symptom. Most cases have been mild, but some patients have turned into severe with critical manifestations. Some have developed complications like multisystem inflammatory syndrome in children. The children and adolescents with coexisting illnesses and or medical comorbidities have been demonstrated to be at higher risk for severe COVID-19 disease. As of January 20 of this year, the Department of Health has recorded a total of 396,730 cases from 0 to 19 years of age. The 15 to 19-year-old age band comprised 36% of the total number of cases in children, followed by the 10 to 14-year-old age band with 25%, and 5 to 9-year-old and the 0 to 4-year-old both have 19% number of cases. In the latest case bulletin released by the Salvation Registry, dated September 30, 2021, 26.5% of 1,811 reported cases of hospitalized children who developed COVID belong to the age group 1 to 5 years of age, followed by the 1 to 11 months of age. Till the present time, fever and cough remain to be the most common symptoms of COVID-19 in children. The rest include shortness of breath, sore throat, diarrhea, myalgia, fatigue, rhinorrhea, vomiting, nasal congestion, abdominal pain, conjunctivitis, rash, and a small percentage with loss of sense of taste and or smell. The Salvation Registry shows to us that among hospitalized Filipino children with COVID-19, the three most common clinical manifestations reported are fever, which is 57%, cough, 43%, and colds, 29%. Other clinical features which have been reported include decreased appetite, difficulty of breathing, vomiting, watery stools, abdominal pain, seizures, sore throat, muscle pain, loss of smell and taste, headache, and rash. Last September 30, 2021, if you recall, the IATF approved the commencement of COVID-19 vaccination in the pediatric population, starting with the 12 to 17 years of age with comorbidities. Okay, in that resolution, it stated that beginning 15 of October last year, vaccination of pediatric population, those between the ages 12 and 17 years old with vaccines granted emergency use authorization by the Food and Drugs Administration shall be the ones used and be piloted under a phased approach. So currently, we have two vaccines which are approved by the FDA to be used under the emergency use authorization for pediatric population. So we have Moderna, which can be used from age 12 to 17 years old, and this was approved last September 3, 2021. And we have Pfizer, which was approved May 18 of 2021, which can be used from 12 years old and older. And just recently, December 22 of 2021, it was approved by the Philippine FDA for use in children aged 5 to 11 years of age. So during the first rollout of the COVID-19 vaccination for the 12 to 17 years old, there were 4 phases. Okay, the first phase was rolled out on October 15, 2021, and this involved selected hospitals in the National Capital Region. And then a week later, October 22 of 2021, the second phase was rolled out, and this was expanded to 17 LGU hospitals of the NCR. The third phase was rolled out a week later the October 29, 2021, wherein this was further expanded to the different regions of the Philippines, and then later on this became nationwide. Okay, as of January 23 of 2022, a target population of 10.7 million of adolescents from 12 to 7 years old was targeted by the national vaccination team. Okay, right now, the report is there are already 7.6 million adolescents who have received the first dose of the vaccine, which has a 71% coverage, and almost 6.3 million adolescents have been fully vaccinated with a 58.7 vaccination coverage. Early this month, the Philippine FDA released a report of suspected adverse reactions to COVID-19 vaccines, which included reports of adverse reactions of 12 to 17 years of age. If you note here, there is only 3% which has been reported as adverse reactions in these age groups compared to the age groups of 18 to 29 and 30 to 39, which comprised nearly 25% of the reports received by FDA. In the FDA report, 2,640 adverse events have been received. 94% were considered or categorized as non-serious, and 5% serious. The most common reported reactions were dizziness, injection site pain, pyrexia, headache, and increased blood pressure. There were 3 cases which were reported as very rare adverse reaction, 2 cases of myocarditis, and 1 case of pericarditis, wherein these cases or these patients have all recovered from these conditions. To date, causality of these medical illnesses is still being investigated and still needs to be established. Last December 22, 2021, Philippine FDA granted emergency use approval to Pfizer for use in children aged 5 to 11 years. And just yesterday, that was January 25, Secretary Galvez announced that the initial rollout of a phased implementation of pediatric vaccination in the 5 to 11-year-old age group will begin on February 4, 2022. So let me just run you through to compare the evaluation of the mRNA vaccine Pfizer, which have been used in some pediatric clinical trials. So I've divided this into 3 columns. The second column are the findings in children who have participated in these clinical trials between 12 and 15 years of age. And the third column are the children who have participated in the 5 to 11 years old. So the date of US approval of Pfizer for the 12 to 15 years old was in May 2021. And for 5 to 11 years old was October 2021. So the number of study participants during that time in the United States was 2,260 participants for the 12 to 15-year-old and 2,268 participants in the 5 to 11-year-old. For the vaccine efficacy For the adolescent age group was 100%, and for the 5 to 11-year-old was 91%. The adverse reactions, if you will notice, are almost same. Okay, most of the study participants complained of local reactions secondary to the vaccine. And what was this? Pain over injection site. Okay, similarly for the 5 to 11-year-old, it's pain over injection site, which comprised 71 to 74% of the reactions which were reported. Systemic reactions, systemic secondary reactions which were reported post-vaccination included fatigue, headache, muscle pain, chills, fever. So in both age groups, these were reported. But in the 12 to 15-year-old, very rare adverse reaction of myocarditis was reported, wherein 54 cases were reported out of 1 million doses. While in the 5 to 11-year-old, very rare case of myocarditis was never reported in that study. Most frequently in the 5 to 11-year-old, the adverse reactions were reported after receiving the second dose of the vaccine. For the dosage, the 12 to 15-year-old received the same adult dose at 30 micrograms and given as 0.3 ml. For the 5 to 11-year-old, the dose was 1/3 of the adult dose, which is 10 microgram given at 0.2 ml. The preparation for the 12 to 15-year-old is a purple cup. Okay, the vial has a purple cap or a gray cap, which is a multi-dose vial, up to 6 doses per vial. Okay, the vial which is used for the 5 to 11-year-old has an orange cap. It is also a multi-dose vial, which is good for 10 doses. The route of administering the vaccine is both intramuscular. And for both age groups, the interval between doses is 21 days. Okay, since in the United States, this has been, the vaccine has been given since the start of October, they already have a safety surveillance data. And the safety surveillance data which I obtained is from November to December of 2021. So in the United States, they have two kinds of safety surveillance data. They have a passive surveillance data, which we call Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. And they have an active surveillance, which they call V-Safe Health Check-in Survey. So doon sa VAERS, they were able to receive 4,249 reports, and they classified this into non-serious and serious events. So for the non-serious events, 97.6% of these events were considered non-serious, and only 2.4 of the reports were considered serious events. And the most commonly reported serious events were fever at 29% and vomiting at 21%. There were reports of myocarditis, but these were only 11 cases out of the 8 million doses which have been administered since the start of October. For the active surveillance data, which is the V-Safe Health Check-in Survey, it received 42,000 reports. And they divided this into the reactions after dose 1 and reactions after dose 2. And the most common adverse reaction that was received is pain on the injection site, followed by fatigue, headache, fever, and myalgia. If you will note, the adverse reactions were more frequently reported during the week after the second dose. And local and systemic reactions after the second dose were less frequent than among 12 to 15 years of age, where in the local reactions for the 12 to 15 year of age was 62%, in contrast the 5 to 11-year-old, which was just 57.5%, and 63% were rated as systemic adverse reactions for the 12 to 15 years of age, and just 41% systemic reactions reported for the 5 to 11 years of age. So what are the benefits of vaccinating children 5 to 11 years of age? So I've divided this into two. One will be a direct benefit and the other will be an indirect benefit. So the direct benefit will be to prevent SARS-CoV-2 infection, and that includes protecting the child against severe disease, hospitalization, and getting severe or long-term complication like missing. Indirect benefits will include reduced likelihood of the viral transmission, as modelers will consider the contribution of children in community transmission. And number two, partially protecting further disruption of classes and providing safer in-house learning. So to end my talk, okay, I just want to emphasize the points. Vaccination is a strong arsenal in navigating this pandemic. Let's push for it, not only the COVID-19 vaccination, but the other disrupted vaccinations that are offered in the National Immunization Program. Remember, there is no perfect vaccine. And each vaccine has its expected side reaction that does not automatically translate to a reduced efficacy or a safety signal. There may be very rare adverse events that may be associated with vaccines, but we always weigh benefits of giving it over the risk of getting down with the disease and its complications, which the vaccine can prevent. With that, I thank you.
Thank you, Doc Buni, for that very thorough discussion on the pediatric vaccination for our 5 to 11 years old. Now we will proceed with the questions submitted by our media partners po, Doc. For our first question po, first po is ano ang mga brands ng bakuna ang ligtas para sa mga bata? Alin sa mga pediatric vaccines ang nag-apply na for EUA?
Sa ngayon, dalawa pa. Tulad ng nasabi ko kanina sa presentation ko, dalawa pa lang ang merong approval from the Philippine FDA para magamit natin sa mga batang may edad 5 hanggang 11. So 12 hanggang pataas. So yung isa, yung Moderna na pwedeng gamitin 12 hanggang 15 at saka yung Pfizer na 12 pataas. Pero yung bakuna na meron palang approval coming from FDA ay iisa pa lang. Yung Pfizer pa lang. Ay ang pagkaalam ko, meron pang ibang bakunang nag-a-apply pero hindi pa yata kompleto yung requirements para maaprubahan sila ng FDA. Pero sa ngayon, Pfizer pa lang ang pwede nating gamitin para sa mga batang may edad 5 hanggang 11 years old.
Thank you for that talk. Now we have another question po from Cristel Guangco of SMNI News. Yung mga bata na COVID survivors, ano ang factor na nalampasan nila ang virus? Hindi pa naman sila nababakunahan at considering their young age.
Yun nga ang nakakagulat Magpasa hanggang ngayon, marami pa ring teorya ang inilalabas ng mga ebidensya pero wala talagang isang dahilan kung bakit mas banayad, mas banayad ang mga sintomas sa mga bata. Kasi hanggang ngayon, kahit iba-iba na yung mga variants natin, kung mapapansin, lalo na ngayon, mas kalat ang virus. Ganun pa rin ang sintomas ng mga bata. Lagnat, sipon, ubo, tapos sa loob ng 1 linggo, okay na sila. Wala kasing pagbabago, so wala pa ring matukoy na iisang dahilan kung bakit mas banayad ang mga sintomas sa mga bata.
Doc, now we have question from JC Cosico of TV5. Kailan hindi dapat bakunahan ang mga 5 to 11 years old? May restrictions po ba?
Sorry po, pakiulit po
Yes
nung
po.
tanong.
Yes po, from JC Cosico po of TV5. Kailan hindi dapat bakunahan ang mga 5 to 11 years old? May restrictions po ba?
Okay. Ganito, kung naalala nyo, dun sa 12 to 17 years old, inuna natin bakunahan yung mga may comorbidities or yung may underlying medical illnesses. Kasi sa palagay namin, kay mas magiging malala sa kanila kapag dinapuan sila ng COVID-19. Sa aking palagay, ganun din ang mangyayari dito sa pag-roll out ng 5 to 11 years old. Malaking bagay, mapaprioridad din natin yung mga batang may comorbidities at may listahan yan na katulad ng listahan na ginamit natin doon sa 12 to 17 years old. Nandun lahat yung mga underlying medical illnesses na po pwedeng napapasa ang mabakunahan yung mga bata.
Doc, this is a related question po from kanina. Is it safe to get COVID-19 vaccine at the same time as other vaccines like flu for kids 5 to 11 years old po?
Ang FDA, lahat ng mga bakuna, sinasaliksik muna yan. Okay? Matagal na proseso yung paggawa ng bakuna at tinitingnan muna yan kung ano magiging epekto sa mga matatanda. Kaya bago nila yan ibaba sa mga bata. So kung effective yan sa mga matatanda, sa kanila yan ibababa sa mga bata at sa kanila pag-aaral. Ngayon sa mga bata, hahanapin nila yung pinakamababang dose na magiging mabisa at ligtas para sa mga bata. So pagkatapos nun, mag-a-apply pa sila kung papasa sila sa FDA ng bansa kung saan yung ginawa. Okay? And then, pag pumasa na dun sa bansang yon, pag nag-apply sila sa ibang bansa, titignan pa rin yan ng FDA ng ina-applyan nilang bansa katulad sa Pilipinas. Hindi lang naman basta-basta inaprubahan. Inaral pa rin yan at ni-review kung ito ay mabisa at magiging ligtas na gamitin para sa mga bata natin. Yun yung sagot dun sa unang tanong. Yung pangalawang tanong, pwede bang magbigay ng flu at COVID-19 vaccine sa mga bata? Matagal na natin binibigay ang flu vaccine. Okay? Ligtas yon, mabisa yon. Okay? Itong COVID-19, bago lang natin ibibigay. Para lang hindi maghalo or hindi ano ko ba papaliwanag? Baka kasi magkaroon ng reaction. Sa ngayon, hindi namin nagsasabay na ibigay yung flu at saka yung COVID-19. Binibigyan muna namin ng 2 linggong pagitan between the COVID-19 and the flu vaccine. Pero kung ang pag-uusapan natin prinsipyo ng vaccinology, actually pwede mong pagsabayin. Kaya lang dahil nagbibigay tayo ng bagong bakuna at gusto nating mas maging ingat sa mga reactions, binibigyan namin ng 2 linggong pagitan yung 2 bakuna.
Thank you for that clarification, Doc. Now we have another question po. Why is the dose based on age? Should we also consider the weight of the child when getting the vaccine?
Why is the dose of the vaccine based on the
Um,
weight?
ano po, Doc? First po is, why is the dose based on age? Tapos yung second
Uh-huh.
question po is, should we also consider the weight of the child when getting the vaccine?
Oh, okay. Um, yung pag-aaral kasi ng Pfizer, um, pinag-aralan mo na yun, nila yung 12 to 17, tapos tinignan nila kung yung adult dose ba mabisa rin dun sa 12 to 17. So nalaman nila na yung adult dose pareho lang ng epekto dun sa pareho lang ng efficacy dun sa mga mabibigyan ng mga matatanda. Pagdating kasi dun sa mga bata, ang nangyari nung pinag-aralan nila yung bakuna, hinati nila sa tatlong grupo. Merong nag-receive ng 10 micrograms, 20 micrograms, 30 micrograms. So hindi yun binase sa timbang ng bata. Binase nila doon sa dose ng bakuna. So hinati nila into 3 cohorts, isang 10, isang 20, isang 30. At nakita nila na mas maraming adverse reactions doon sa mas mataas. Tapos nakita nila na doon sa 10 micrograms, mas konti yung adverse reactions, tapos katanggap-tanggap naman yung pagiging epektibo ng bakuna. Kaya yun ang na-recommend nilang dose. So parang walang ganong dahilan na kukunin sa weight. Kinuha nila dun sa paggamit ng dose sa edad.
Thank you for that, Doc. Now, from JC Kosikov TV5 po again. Doc, can you also please explain the concept of myocarditis?
Okay. So yung mga bata or kahit patatanda na nagkakaroon ng natural infection ng COVID, ng SARS-CoV-2 virus, pwedeng tamaan ang puso. So ano nangyayari? Namamaga ang puso nila. Kaya tinatawag natin yung muscles ng puso. Kaya tinatawag nating myocarditis kasi yung myo, yun yung muscles of the heart. Tapos yung carditis, mamamaga. Kaya namamaga ang puso. So sa mga nagkakaroon ng natural infection, pwedeng magkaroon ng myocarditis. Sino ang nagkakaroon, hindi natin alam, pero mas mataas ang pagkakaroon ng myocarditis kapag nagkaroon ka ng natural infection secondary to SARS-CoV-2 than mabakunahan ka ng COVID-19 vaccine at magkaroon ka ng myocarditis.
Thank you for that explanation po, Doc. Now po, from Aiko Miguel of UNTV po, will children be recommended to take paracetamol in case they experience fever? Things to do po post-vaccination.
Okay. Right now, dun sa ginagawa natin rollout sa adolescent population, kasi hanggang ngayon naman, tuloy-tuloy pa rin naman natin yung pagbibigay ng bakuna sa mga adolescents. Pagkatapos bakunahan, 30 minutos silang nandun para maobserbahan kung may mga reaction. Pagkatapos nun, kakausapin sila ng mga healthcare workers para mapaliwanag kung ano yung pwede nilang asahan na mga side reactions. Kasi pwedeng sumakit yung ininjeksyonan, pwedeng ang maglagnat, pwedeng sumakit ang ulo, pwedeng pakiramdam nila parang pagod. Then binibilinan sila na pwede silang mag-take ng paracetamol kung matindi yung sakit ng injection site, kung maglagnat sila, at kung sumakit ang ulo. Nakamute ka, Aki?
Yes. I mean, dapat ba dalhin sa doktor after ay kung magkaroon po ng AFI yung bata?
I'm sorry. Dapat bang dalhin sa
Agad sa
doktor?
doktor po pag nagka-experience po ng AFI yung bata?
Ng AE, ng adverse event?
Adverse events po
Kung
following
halimbawa naman
immunization?
kung ang adverse event, kung ang adverse reaction lang naman po lagnat, then magbigay muna po tayo ng paracetamol kasi aasahan po talaga natin na merong mga batang maglalagnat kaysa loob ng 2 o 3 araw pagkatapos mabakunahan. So bigay muna po tayo ng paracetamol as instruction nung post-vaccination by the healthcare workers. Siguro pag hindi po yan bumaba ng 24 oras despite the paracetamol intake, then tama po na ipakita po or dalhin po sa doktor.
Thank you po, Doc, for that po. We have question po from Red Mendoza of the Manila Times. Based on your observation, will children age 5 to 11 and 12 to 17 need a booster dose in the future or too early pa to consider a booster dose for this age group?
Sa aking pananaw, sa ngayon, mas maigi munang tignan natin like yung 12 to 17 years old, kailangan natin sigurong kumuha ng datos para malaman natin gaano ba talaga tumatagal yung protection na ibinibigay ng bakuna. Doon sa 5 to 11 years old, dahil magsisimula pa lang naman tayo, bakunahan muna natin and then saka tayo kumuha ng datos, saka natin suriin kung gaano rin tatagal ang ibibigay na proteksyon ng bakuna sa mga bata.
Thank you for that, Doc. We have a follow-up question po about myocarditis from Ruperto Falyado po. Myocarditis is a rare side effect of the vaccine. Is it a thing to worry or this side effect will just go away or be relieved?
Okay. So, yung myocarditis will present with symptoms. So, hindi naman yan basta-basta, nandyan lang nang walang nararamdaman ng bata. So, magre-reklamo yan, masakit ang dibdib niya, parang ang bilis ng tibok ng puso niya, or mabilis siyang mahapo. So, yung mga ganung sintomas, hindi naman natin ipapagsawalang bahala yon. So, kakailanganin natin magpatingin sa doktor kasi kailangan natin ng medical advice kung ano yung tama nating gawin. Ngayon, yung mga adverse events na nai-report pagkatapos ng pagbabakuna ng COVID-19 sa mga bata ay lahat gumaling. Pero kailangan pa rin natin syempre subaybayan itong mga batang ito. Although lahat sila gumaling na.
Thank you for that, Doc. Now we have another question po from Tet Bondok of DOH CLCHD. Can we safely say that children with certain allergies on antibiotics, for example, are still safe to be vaccinated with Pfizer or Moderna?
Yes, ang sagot ko dyan, yes. Provided that they don't have allergies to the ingredients of the COVID-19 vaccine. What we need to do siguro is to observe them longer. Para kung let's say if there's any reaction that can happen, they will be there. And the healthcare workers are there to administer immediate measures.
Thank you for that, Doc. Then we have another question po from JC Cosico of TV5 again. Hello, Doc. Ano pong mensahe nyo sa mga magulang na hesitant pabakunahan ang kanilang mga anak? May dapat po ba silang ipangamba? Ah,
Okay. Siguro pag nakausap ko yung mga magulang na yan, ang sasabihin ko, ang mga bakunang binibigay ng ating pamahalaan ay nagdaan ng masusing pag-aaral yan. So hindi naman magbibigay ang pamahalaan ng isang bakuna na hindi ligtas at mabisa para sa mga batang ito. So kung ang hinahangad nila ay maprotektahan ang kanilang anak laban dito sa sakit na to at maiwasan na magkaroon sila ng malalang sakit, then maiging mapabakunahan sila. Pangalawa, matagal na rin naman silang hindi nakakapasok kasi sa eskwelahan. So, ang laki na ng epekto sa kanilang edukasyon, pati sa kanilang mental health. And one way para mabawasan natin yung ganyang problema na hindi ang parang napabayaan na natin yung edukasyon ng bata, pati yung social activities niya, pati yung mental health, is mabakunahan sana yung mga bata.
thank you, Doc. We have our last question po. Kailangan po ba ng clearance mula sa doktor bago mapabakunahan ang mga bata?
Ang kailangan ng clearance po ay yung mga batang may comorbidities. Ang pagbibigay naman po natin ng clearance is para malaman po ng healthcare worker na ito pong batang ito ay merong underlying medical condition at pinapayagan ko at cleared po siya na mabakunahan at this time. Yun po ang role ng medical clearance.
Okay po, Doc. Sir po, we have another question pa po pala before we end this question and answer po. Meron po bang adverse effect following immunization ang pediatric vaccination based on clinical trials or initial findings? Mas malala po ba ang side effects ng mga bakuna sa bata kaysa sa matanda?
Surprisingly, mas maraming adverse events ang nakita sa matatanda kaysa sa mga bata. Kung nakita niyo po kanina yung report ko, yung report po ng FDA, kanina po pinakita ko in one of my slides, 3% lang po ang reports ng adverse reactions sa 12 to 17 years old compared po dun sa 18 hanggang 39 years old, which were 23 and 24%. So, kakaunti lang po yung nangyaring mga adverse events following immunization after the initial rollout po natin ng COVID-19 vaccination sa mga batang edad 12 to 17.
Thank you for that, Doc. Last question na po talaga from Red Mendoza of The Manila Times. Hi, Doc. Ano po ang babagay na environment for children age 5 to 11 as a vaccination site? Sinabi po ni Yusek kahapon sa media forum po namin na pwede ang playground basta it fits the requirements of a vaccination site.
Sa akin kasi basta maluwag, okay, that we can follow the minimum health protocol, isang environment din na maaaliw ang mga bata, okay sa akin. Kasi di naman isang lugar na hindi kasing laki ng playground, pero enough space to comply with the minimum health protocols, but you all have the activities we can entertain children, like for example, showing mga movies on screen for children, or giving them books na pambata, or providing them, bigyan nyo ng pagkain. Mababaw lang naman po ang mga bata eh. So, yung mga ganun pong mga entertainment activities, okay na po yun. Basta ang mahalaga po, mabakunahan sila at bago ho bakunahan, nakapractice tayo ng minimum health protocols sa isang lugar.
Thank you to Doc Bunyi. That's all the questions po that we can accommodate for now. And before we end our kapihan, I would like to ask po Doc Bunyi to give her closing message po, and especially the message to the parents po.
Nandito po ako muli kay nananawagan sa mga magulang na ito pong COVID-19 na ipamamahagi ng ating pamahalaan ay isang oportunidad para sa inyong pamilya, sa inyong mga anak, na maprotektahan laban sa COVID-19. Hindi lang dahil para maprotektahan sila laban sa COVID-19, para rin naman makalabas na sila, pumasok sa eskwelahan, makapaglaro na rin sila kasama yung kanilang mga kalaro dati. Yung pag-aagam-agam natin na baka mamaya ito ay hindi ligtas, wag niyo pong isipin yon. Hindi po magbibigay ang pamahalaan natin ng hindi po mabisa at ligtas para sa lahat. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you so much po, Doc Bunyi, for for accommodating our request po for today's kapihan. It is very helpful for us, especially to our media partners po, now that malapit na yung pediatric vaccination natin for 5 to 11 years old. And again, thank you to our media partners for attending our kapihan for today. Thank you and be well.